The 2024 Cup Series season has come and gone. We have already reached the quarter mark, and it's never too late to start evaluating how the driver seasons have been doing right now, based on what my expectations were for them for the start of the season. This is opinion based only, obviously. If you guys disagree, just comment down below. But yeah, let's get right into it. We're gonna do this in numerical order here. Okay, so first of all, let's start with Ross Chastain. He's honestly what I expected. So far, he's doing what I expected him to be, being the playoff pitcher, compete for a top 10 in points. I believe he would be top 10 in points if he didn't wreck out at Texas. That wreck cost him 30 points and a top 5 finish. So he would have had like 6 top 5s or 6 top 10s in the first 9 races, 2 of those being top 5s. But yeah. So far, Chastain has been right where I expected him to be. Austin Cindric has been a bit disappointing, honestly. If he was like below 25th in points, I would consider it a very disappointing season. But there was a time starting in the season early on, he was like inside the playoff bubble. But since then, he has like slowly faded out as the races have went on. Hasn't shown any improvement since his sophomore slump, and slowly but surely they are starting. He's starting to the urgency to pick it up is starting to kick in. A driver that is very disappointing though, Austin Dillon. He was like on a very, very negative streak to start the season, where he was involved like in the first caution. In each of the first 4 races, or 3 of the first 4 races, I cannot remember. And that poor start to the season has led to him, excuse me, has led to him having some negative momentum to start the year. And this coming up the heels of a very poor 2023 season where he racked up like double-digit DNFs or whatever. I expected Austin Dillon to at the very least return to his 2022 self, but that has not been the case so far. Josh Berry, he's honestly been disappointing, simply because I expected him to win Rookie of the Year. Right now, he's not even leading the Rookie of the Year standings, and he's not even 25th in points. He's also not even the second best driver at Stewart-Haas Racing. Obviously, Briscoe is the best, and we're gonna talk about Briscoe later. But Berry, as for Josh Berry, he has been very. He's had a poor start to the season. That's what I'm gonna say. Kyle Larson, honestly, he's just leading the points. It's what I expected him to do. Just one of the best, if not the best, driver in the Cup Series right now. Leading the points, 3 straight poles. Yeah, good for Larson. Keselowski. I know Keselowski has been like on a very positive streak, but his start to the season is the main reason why I'm putting him disappointing here. But it's like a very slight disappointment. This is only due to the fact that he is right now below the cut line, but he has put himself back in the bubble. This is still a disappointment because at this point last season he was like solidly in the position in the playoff bubble with a pretty nice points cushion, and I expected him to at the very least compete for wins. But you're starting to notice a trend here that most of the 4 drivers, they're going to be disappointing with a couple of exceptions. But, yeah. Keselowski, he's slightly disappointing, which is why I'm putting him over here. Let's see here. Corey LaJoie. Should I put Corey LaJoie? Honestly, LaJoie has been disappointing as well. Honestly, LaJoie has been, like, disappointing as well, so... simply because he is not he was supposed to be the veteran leader of the Spire Motorsports team, but he is getting outperformed by his teammate Hocevar. And other than a couple of other than that Las Vegas race and the Daytona 500, he hasn't shown anything. Outside of Super Speedways, he hasn't shown anything outside of that Las Vegas race. As a matter of fact, Hocevar, like I said, his teammate Hocevar has been putting together more races than him and better results. So the fact that I expected Corey LaJoie to be like the veteran leader of Spire Motorsports, and he just hasn't been that, is what lands him here on disappointing. Kyle Busch has also been disappointing. 3 top 10s in the first 9 races. Obviously, you can attribute that to RCR just not being not being JGR, or they just taking a step back from last year. But still, you expect Kyle Busch to compete for wins run up front. This is not the Kyle Busch we're used to. So yes, it's disappointing for him. Chase Elliott is being right where I expected him to. He finally broke his winless streak, and he is once again top 5 in points. So this is not a surprise for me. I expected this from Chase Elliott. I expected a bounce back from him. So there we go. Noah Gragson. If I made this video like after the first 6 races or 5 races, I would have put Gragson here like a big surprise. But ever since then, he has regressed to the norm. And he still has fulfilled my expectations. Like 2 top 10s. Start off the season strong with 2 top 10s. Obviously, you will see like he's 30-ish in points, but that's only because of that 30-point penalty that he got. He will be around 25th, or knocking on the door toward 25th in points, which is still an improvement from his dismal rookie season with Legacy. But yeah, he has been treading water. Which is pretty much the only expectation. It's a very low expectation, sure, but the fact that he already has 2 top 10s on the season, that means that he has already an improvement from his rookie season, and he has met my expectations so far. Hamlin, again, just like Larson, not much to say. He has met expectations. Two early season wins, both of them coming at short tracks. Hamlin looks like the driver to beat at short tracks, by the way. So I gotta watch out for him. Ryan Blaney, just carrying the torch. The only high point for Ford this season has been Ryan Blaney. Defending champion. He's doing everything in his power to carry an entire manufacturer. But as far as his season goes, he's honestly what I expected out of him. Just running top 10 in points, going a bunch of top 5s to start the season. A bit inconsistent, but that's par for the course when it comes to that 12 team. Chase Briscoe. Yeah, Briscoe is honestly right where I expected him as well. He is just being the best driver for Stewart-Haas Racing, and the only hope that they have for Briscoe to, for them to, have some presence in the playoffs. Right now, he is above the cut line, and whether he makes the playoffs or not, the fact that Briscoe remains in the playoff bubble, that's just within the realm of my expectations. Anything over that would be a surprise for me. Like Briscoe finishing top 10 in regular season standings, that would be surprising. Kaz Grala, honestly, he's been right where I expected him to. He hasn't had the runs that his teammate Justin Haley has, but him and Justin Haley, Rick Ware Racing as a whole, they have honestly kept it clean. Not getting involved in many wrecks. Kaz Grala has done a pretty decent job at running. Honestly, I'm gonna say this right now. He should be full time in that 15 car. I don't know why they're splitting him with Riley Herbst, Cody Ware, or whatever. No disrespect to any of those guys, but if Rick Ware Racing, they want some sort of direction, they need a full time. They need both of their cars to have full time drivers on it, and then obviously they can have the third car part time for whoever they want to put there. But again, Kaz Grala has been doing a pretty decent job with that Rick Ware Racing car. Obviously, he's below 30th in points, but that's par for the course when you drive a Rick Ware Racing car. But you gotta watch the races to know that this team is on the upswing. This team is definitely on the upswing. Chris Buescher, I know he started off the season on a very disappointing note because of the Las Vegas incident where he lost a wheel and some of his crew members were suspended. But like Ross Chastain, 5 top 10s in the first 9 races, and he's right now in the playoff picture. Right now he has met expectations. Martin Truex Jr., he has also met my expectations. Competing for the regular season title. Hopefully he doesn't, fall apart like he did in the playoffs last year, because that would be just embarrassing. But so far, Truex has been having a good season. Um, you could argue it's been a bit disappointing because he didn't win, but again, I just wouldn't look so far into that. Christopher Bell also met my expectations. He won at Phoenix early on. 6 top 10s in the first 9 races. Obviously, he's had his bouts of inconsistency, but that's par for the course when it comes to the 20 team. Come playoff time, you can expect them to turn it up and compete for a championship 4 spot like they have done in each of the past 2 years. Harrison Burton, arguably the biggest disappointment this season so far, even worse than Austin Dillon, has been Harrison Burton, because this is the 3rd year of the Harrison Burton experience for Wood Brothers Racing. And it seems like he's just getting worse and regressing as the seasons go on. Wood Brothers, they are still looking for that 100th win, and with Harrison Burton, they're just not showing anything. They are looking like a borderline backmarker team with him behind the wheel. So it wouldn't surprise me if them or Penske, they decide to pull the plug on this whole experiment and finally let Harrison Burton go in favor of another driver, just a change of direction. But yeah, he has shown very little promise in each of the past 2 years, compared to some flashes that he showed in 2022, but ever since then it's been nothing but blah. Joe Logano, a bit disappointing, honestly, gotta say. He started off the season just like Brad Keselowski. He started out the season on a very poor note, wrecking out in each of the first 2 races. He was as low as 30th in points as well, getting up crashes in 3 of the first 4 races. Ever since then, he has cleaned it up, and he has gotten 3 top 10s in the last 4 or 5 races. But still, he's still in the playoff bubble, which is some unknown territory for him, considering that Logano, it's always a presence in the playoff. That 22 car is always a solid presence in the playoffs. It's very weird to see him compete for a playoff spot with the likes of Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. But yeah, Bubba Wallace. Okay, hear me out. In my opinion, Bubba Wallace has been the biggest surprise of this season so far. 3 top 5s. Could have been 4 if it wasn't for that late caution at Richmond that he unintentionally caused. But I have seen Bubba Wallace run up front more often, and not just on the super speedways and intermediates, but also on the short tracks. At Richmond and Martinsville, like I said, he was running top 5. Texas, if he followed up, he's great. One of the best races of his career last year. He followed it up with a top 10 run in what was a very chaotic race. And 23XI, they are, in my opinion, the 3rd best team behind JGR and Hendrick. They are the 3rd best team, and Bubba Wallace's performance, along with Tyler Reddick doing what he does. Obviously, Tyler Reddick is doing his thing, but Bubba, he has been the biggest surprise. He has been able to even run better than his teammate Reddick at times, or run on par with him at the very least. So, like I said, 23XI. Right now they are the 3rd best team behind the big 2 of Hendrick and JGR. And while Reddick has been the leader of that team, the best driver, it's Bubba Wallace's improvement. That 23 team, they are top 10 in points. 23XI has both of their cars in the top 10 in points. Bubba is 9th in points right now. And he has a big, not really big, but pretty sizable cushion in the playoff bubble. I do believe this is the most comfortable he has been playoff-wise in his career. And if he keeps it up, who knows? Bubba Wallace could be a dark horse threat for the title. Or an outside threat, who knows? Maybe I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself, but yeah. William Byron is interesting because at this point you could say Byron winning races is the norm, because he has been the winningest driver in the Gen 7 era. That being said, 3 wins in the first 8 races, in the Gen 7 era that has brought a lot of parity. That is still surprising though. It's like every season William Byron manages to find a way to surprise me. It doesn't matter, no matter how good he is running or how much like he meets my expectations. William Byron somehow manages to exceed them in the first, obviously the first quarter of the season. He has always managed to surprise me. Definitely a future superstar, definitely a candidate for best driver in the Gen 7 era, and he is knocking on the door of that best driver at Hendrick title. He's starting to, it's becoming a competition between him and Larson over who the best driver at Hendrick is. So just for the fact alone that Byron is actually competing, finally giving Larson a fight for who the best driver in Hendrick is, or who the best, just not who the best driver in Hendrick is, who the best driver in NASCAR is overall. The fact that he's giving a driver like Larson that big of a fight, yeah, that automatically puts him in a surprise there. Speaking of disappointments, Daniel Hemric. He has also been a big disappointment this season. Yeah, unfortunately, Colleague Racing, they have been in a tailspin. Daniel Hemric obviously has been at the forefront of that. He hasn't done any favors, and he hasn't done anything to improve the team. I'm going to say this. It's almost embarrassing, or not embarrassing. It's just straight up embarrassing the fact that Daniel Hemric is getting outrun by Justin Haley more often than not. And Justin Haley was the former Colleague Racing's former driver. You would expect Daniel Hemric to, at the very least, put up the results that Justin Haley has put together. He has not. He has performed worse than Justin Haley, and Justin Haley is on par with him on Recore Racing equipment that is considered inferior. So just because of that, I gotta say, very disappointing season for Daniel Hemric. Michael McDowell, his start of the season was a big surprise. We knew that Front Row Motorsports, they had that alliance with Penske, but ever since then, that 34 team, they have just regressed to the norm. Todd Gilliland, he's kind of in the same boat. And I could just talk about Front Row Motorsports since, they are together. The two of them, they showed a lot of flashes on super speedways. They showed that they are actually better than we thought on super speedways, but outside of that, there's still work to be done. Their intermediate program, their short track program, there still needs work to be done, because ever since leaving Daytona and Atlanta, ever since like the real season started, quote unquote, they have just regressed to the norm. And that's not a disappointment. That's honestly, what you expect from Front Row Motorsports, just being a 20th to 25th place team. On super speedways, however, they are just flexing that Penske alliance, which, it shouldn't be a surprise at this point. I mean, it's Penske, one of the best super speedway teams, and their super speedway program is top notch. You can also attribute that to Ford just being disappointing as a whole. So I'm not gonna be too mean to Front Row Motorsports. I mean, that team is still on the upswing, but they are not as surprising. They are not the surprise that I thought they would be. They are still meeting expectations though. McDowell, he is in the playoff bubble, a bit below the playoff bubble, I'm gonna say, but he has 2 top 10s. And then Todd Gilliland is like 25th in points, which slowly improving. He's actually showing flashes of improvement, unlike Harrison Burton. So yeah, I'm gonna be nice to them and just put them there. Let's see, Ryan Preece. Okay, hear me out on Ryan Preece. I know he suffered a 30-point penalty that has knocked him out down a peg, but if you give him those 30 or 35 points, I don't really know how many points it was penalized. I know it was in the 30s, but if you give those points back that they lost at Atlanta, that 41 team, they would be top 20 in points. I know a lot of people are not looking at Ryan Preece, but right now, Ryan Preece, he's looking like Stewart-Haas Racing's second best driver, when a lot of people expected him to be the black sheep of the team, like he was last year. But Preece has definitely shown a lot of improvement over the past season. A second year at Stewart-Haas Racing, more stability. He has been competing for top tens or knocking on the door on top tens more often than not. I mean, look at just this past race at Texas. He finished 12th. I know that race was chaotic, but he almost finished in the top 10 amidst all of the chaos. And yeah, he has just, put together some quiet results, some quiet but pretty solid results. So I'm gonna say it's a surprise, but it's one of the more low-key surprises of the season. You just gotta watch the races. You just gotta watch Ryan Preece closely, and Ryan Preece fans, they're gonna know what I'm talking about because they follow their driver very passionately. But yeah, they're gonna agree with me that Ryan Preece, his start of the season has been pretty low-key, but he has been a surprise. He's had a quiet start, 0 incidents, or not as many incidents as I thought, because his 2023 season, it was marked with a lot of incidents and just crashes. Honestly, that's just what he needs. He just needed more. He just needed to, have races more cleanly, and that's it. So, moving on, Legacy Motor Club. John Hunter Nemechek and Erik Jones. John Hunter has been a surprise. As for Legacy Motor Club is pretty interesting because I thought Erik Jones was going to be the best driver, but it's John Hunter Nemechek, the driver that has been, in the playoff bubble, actually competing for a playoff spot for most of the first quarter of the season. I know he, with those crashes at Martinsville and Texas, he has dropped out of the bubble, but before those races, like throughout the first 7 races, he was in position to snag a playoff spot away, or like he was in a playoff bubble. Well, Erik Jones was like, top 20th-ish in points. Erik Jones has been right where I expected him to, but John Hunter Nemechek has been the surprise, the biggest surprise, because for most of the first quarter of the season, for up until like the 8th race of the season at Martinsville when he wrecked out, he was higher in points than Erik Jones. And this just brings me to realize that maybe these two teams are going to be more even than we thought. It's not going to be like the 43 being the number 1 and then the 42 like being way behind. No. Both of these teams, they have a chance to finish top 20 in points. Obviously, you expect that from the 43 team, but the 42 team, having this expectation is a big surprise. Having this, this chance to finish top 20 in points with John Hunter Nemechek, it's been a big surprise. Tyler Reddick, I know I pointed this out when I was talking about Bubba Wallace. Now it's time to talk about his teammate. Reddick has been right where I expected him to, just being the best driver at 2311. He hasn't won, but he has competed for wins. He could have won, Las Vegas and Texas. He's also being, pretty solid on road courses. He is still the best driver on road courses in the Gen 7 car, in my opinion. But yeah, 3 top 5s, 6 top 10s in the first 9 races. Solidly in the top 10 in points. After a pretty slow start to the season, especially. Where he was like, I don't know if he wrecked out in the first 2 races, but I know he was involved in some incidents. He finished poorly the first 2 races, but after that he has bounced back very well. So, he has bounced back very well, and he has been the best driver for 2311. Obviously, not as surprising as Bubba Wallace, because this is what you expect from Tyler Reddick. A driver that I did not expect to have a very disappointing start to the season, and this has flown under the radar, is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Stenhouse, I just didn't realize how poor of a start to the season Ricky Stenhouse had. It's very similar to his 2022 start to the season, where he was like involved in crashes and whatnot. But this is coming off the heels of the arguably the best season that JTG Daugherty Racing, that 47 team, has ever had, where they won the Daytona 500, made the playoffs. They scored like, 8, 9 top 10s on the year. Going from that to 27th, 28th in points, if I recall correctly. Going from that to almost bottom of the barrel. that's just very disappointing. I didn't realize how poor of a start to the season Stenhouse had until I looked at the point standings. I just realized, hey, where's Stenhouse at? Sometimes I forget Stenhouse is even on the field at sometimes, which, you know, is something that it's reserved for drivers like Daniel Hemric or Ty Dillon back when he was a Cup driver. But yeah, it's honestly, if I forget that you are in the field at some point in the season, if I forget that you are a full-time Cup driver, then yeah, you're doing something wrong, because I'm forgetting that you are even a Cup driver. But yeah, Stenhouse is being pretty disappointing. Alex Bowman, you could argue that it's a surprise, the fact that Alex Bowman has managed to, you know, hold steady despite all of the injuries that he's had the past 2 seasons. But honestly, this is not surprising to me, because he's driving a Hendrick car, and right now his stats: 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, and then the rest of his results are just inconsistency. That's just up and down. That's just the Alex Bowman experience for you. When he runs well, he runs well. If he crashes, he finishes poorly. But yeah, right now he's still in the playoff picture. So Hendrick, right now they have all 4 of their cars in the playoffs. But yeah, Alex Bowman, he's still the worst driver of the 4. There were some talks early in the season about Chase Elliott. This was after the COTA race that Alex Bowman just scored a top 5 in. There was some talks about, you know, Chase Elliott potentially being the 4th best driver at Hendrick, or the worst driver at Hendrick, and then he responded with back-to-back top 5s and then a win at Texas to break the streak. So he just put that argument to rest right away, and yeah, Bowman is still the 4th wheel at Hendrick. That's still not a disappointment though. He's honestly just what I expect out of Bowman. 4th wheel at Hendrick, but still be a playoff driver. Justin Haley, okay. Hear me out on Justin Haley. I know he is below 30th in points, but the fact that he is performing better than Daniel Hemric, or he is running better than Daniel Hemric in more often than not, is why I have him here. It's a very low-key surprise, but the fact that he is outrunning Daniel Hemric, and I know he is below Daniel Hemric in points, but that's mostly because he was disqualified at COTA. If you give him those points back, he finished top 20 at COTA, so if you give him like those 20-ish points back, Justin Haley would be he would be higher in points than Daniel Hemric. The fact that he is outrunning Daniel Hemric on his old car, it's enough for me to put him here in a surprise, because I did not expect Justin Haley to outperform his all-right, and as long as he does that, that is his all-right. I know that is a very low bar, but considering he went to Rick Ware Racing, the only expectation Justin Haley had is just prove that this was the right decision. Just prove to us that that going to Rick Ware Racing, that leaving Kaulig Racing was not the bad decision that everyone thought he would. Right now, Justin Haley is proving that leaving Kaulig Racing was not as bad of a decision as we all thought it would be. Ty Gibbs, he has been a surprise as well. I'm gonna say he has been surprising. I know a lot of people expected him, and I know this is a bit, you know, you guys are gonna think like, oh, what you're talking about, because I had high expectations for Ty Gibbs. But the thing is, I expected Ty Gibbs to struggle, have a bit of a sophomore slump right out of the gate, and then as the season went on, he would just, you know, improve and then eventually win his first career win at some point in the playoffs. No, that has not been the case. Ty Gibbs has been performing really well from the start. He has been, in terms of average finish, I believe he has like a top 5 average finish right now. He has not finished outside the top 20. He also has competed for a couple of wins there. He was the car to beat at Bristol before, you know, a flat tire knocked him out of contention. But yeah, that damn 54 car. He is showing speed right from the get-go, and if this is how this is gonna go throughout the season, because he's gonna get better throughout the season. If he's starting this good, just imagine how better he's gonna get throughout the year. That first win is coming this year, and he's gonna be a playoff driver, not just a playoff driver, but I could see him making it as far as the round of 12, maybe round of 8, depending on how the rest of the season goes on. But yeah, I had high expectations for Ty Gibbs, and he has somehow exceeded them. So shout out to Ty Gibbs, shout out to that 54 team. Future's bright for that young kid. A future that's not looking so bright is Zane Smith, though. I'm gonna cut him some slack. I know he is last among full-time drivers right now because of that dismal start to the season, but again, I'm just gonna cut him some slack because he is a rookie and he's coming from the Truck Series all the way to the Cup Series. I'm not a fan of drivers skipping series to get to the Cup Series. I'm not a fan of drivers skipping ARCA to go to Xfinity. I'm not a fan of drivers skipping Xfinity to go to the Cup Series. I'm just not a fan of that. Some drivers just do not translate. And Zane Smith has just been one of those. Obviously, being a truck champion, you would think that, and having some pedigree, you would think some people would put more expectations on him than his rookie teammate Carson Hocevar. But Zane Smith just doesn't have the potential or the upside that people see on Hocevar, because simply because he hasn't driven Gen 7 cars as much as Hocevar has. Remember, Hocevar filled in for the suspended Gragson on the 42 car, and he actually performed pretty well. Zane Smith just hasn't had that experience. Racing, that many opportunities to race in part-time in the Cup Series. But he's still a rookie. Obviously, if we looked at the point standings at face value, you would say, yeah, he's the biggest disappointment. But you got to remember, he's a rookie. He's still learning. So I'm going to cut him some slack. It's still a disappointing season regardless, because you're running you're worse in points than Harrison Burton, worse in points than Kaz Grala, and worse in points than Hemrick and even Justin Haley. Being worse in points than the two Rick Ware Racing cars is not a good thing. I know Rick Ware Racing is still in the upswing, but Spire Motorsports is a better team than Rick Ware Racing. So if you're running worse than any of those two cars, you're not doing things well. You gotta reassess yourself, and that's what that 71 team's gotta do. They just gotta figure out what's going on and just go from there. Carson Hocevar, on the other hand, he has been surprising. I'm gonna say it right now. He has been the second most surprising driver this season. It's not a big surprise because, like I said when I was talking about Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar, he's had plenty of opportunity to test out the Gen 7 car before his actual rookie year, and he managed to surprise some people. Obviously, I'm talking about the Bristol night race last year, where he had a top 10 car for most of the race, but in the end he just finished 11th. But yeah, Hocevar, he has definitely been the best driver for Spire Motorsports, which is something I did not expect out of him. Obviously, it's not the biggest of a surprise, like I said, because he has this Gen 7 car, because he has tested out the Gen 7 car before, but still. He just scored his first career top 10 at Texas. He is knocking on the door to a top 20 finishing points. If he was top 20 in points outright, I would say it's a big surprise, but still. He's also leading the rookie standings. When I expected Josh Berry to win Rookie of the Year, but Hocevar has proven me wrong in that department as well. So yeah, Carson Hocevar, like I said, he has more potential than Zane Smith, despite not being a truck champion like his Spire/Trackhouse Racing teammate. But yeah, the fact that Hocevar has had more opportunity to run in the Cup Series, and he has been able to produce better results than Zane Smith in those limited starts. Yes, he has more potential than Zane Smith, despite him being a truck champion. And he is even exceeding those expectations, so which is why he has been surprising to me. And finally, Daniel Suarez. I know Suarez just scored his first top 5 of the season since his Atlanta win. But the fact that he won Atlanta when I expected him to be in the playoff bubble and ultimately missed the playoffs, because if you remember, when I made my playoff predictions video, I had Daniel Suarez barely missing out on the playoffs over Alex Bowman. I had Alex Bowman making it to the playoffs on the final spot on points over Suarez. The fact that Suarez just locked himself in the playoffs with that early season win at Atlanta, that early in the season. Also the fact that Suarez is, at the moment, the only driver not from Joe Gibbs or Hendrick to win a cup race so far this season. All of those factors combined make for Suarez having a surprising start to the season. That win at Atlanta, especially in the fashion that it came, like an epic 3-wide finish. Literally, the only reason Suarez is here is because of that Atlanta win. That is a surprise in and of itself. That win and the fact that he came early in the season, it gives that 99 team so much room to improve, so much stuff to work on come playoff time. They have a lot of room to experiment on setups and stuff like that. It gave Suarez a lot of breathing room. So in the end, yeah, I'm just gonna be nice to Suarez and say that win at Atlanta came as a literal surprise to me. I did not expect Suarez to win that race. So, yeah. That's it for my quarterly review of the biggest surprises and disappointments of the season. If you agree or disagree with me, share your opinion with me in the comments down below. And yeah, see you all next video. First regular upload of the season, baby.